Nigeria is set to sign the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Capital importation into Nigeria increases to $8.485 million, just as OPEC re-elects Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo for another 3-year term. The program will also look at the takeaways from the ongoing International Oil and Gas Conference in Abuja. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Amina Nujain. Welcome. The total value of capital importation into Nigeria in the first quarter of this year increased by 216.03% compared to the fourth quarter of 2018. Latest capital importation data released by the National Bureau of Statistics indicates that $8.48 billion was spent in the first quarter of 2019. Also, capital importation year-on-year into Nigeria rose by 34.61% compared to the first quarter of 2018. Nigeria's capital importation is categorized into foreign direct investment, portfolio investment, and other investment. The largest amount of capital importation by type was received through portfolio investment, which accounted for 84.21% of total capital importation. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court in Lagos ordered permanent seizure by the Nigerian government of $8.4 million and 9.2 million naira, a total of 12 billion naira belonging to Patience Jonathan, wife of former Nigerian leader Goodluck Jonathan. Justice Mojisola Olatoregun granted the application for the EFCC for the forfeiture and ruled that the money was reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime after evidence produced by the EFCC showed that fictitious names were used to lodge money into the account, and the non-payment of tax also buttressed the fact that the money was proceeds from illegal enrichment. President Muhammadu Buhari is to sign the agreement establishing the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement at the extraordinary summit of the Africa Union in Niamey, Niger. Recall that Presidential Committee on Impact and Readiness Assessment of the AFTA submitted its report to President Buhari a week ago. The president stated that trade is important to Nigeria's economy and added that for the Africa Continent Free Trade Area Agreement to succeed, Africa must have a manufacturing agenda that not only promotes production and job opportunities, but also guarantees free movement of made-in-Africa goods.
Needs not only a trade policy, but also a continental manufacturing agenda. Our vision for intra-African trade is for the free movement of made-in-Africa goods. That is, goods and services made locally with dominant African content in terms of raw materials and value addition. If we allow unbridled imports to continue, it will dominate our trade. The implication of this is that coastal importing nations will prosper while landlocked nations will continue to suffer and depend on aid. The African Continental Free Trade Area we aspire to have should therefore not only create wealth for investors, but also jobs and prosperity.
55 countries make up the area and 52 signed earlier, with Nigeria, Eritrea and the Republic of Benin holding back. The steps takes Nigeria away from doubtless a major move towards complete trade integration in line with the quest for Africa Union for Africa to trade with Africa. We have in the studio Professor of Economics Ken Ife to take a closer look at the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement and what it holds for Nigeria and the continent. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now let's start this way. An overview after. In summary, what would it be?
Look, the AFTA is, there are two areas there are three things. There is free trade area, which is common market. There's an upgrade, which is customs union. And then the final one is monetary union. We are on the very first ladder, which is free trade area. Now, there's a very strong, compelling case for Nigeria to join. And the case is strategic, diplomatic, economic, political. There's so many cases. Africa is our centerpiece of our foreign policy. We've done so much for Africa in all levels, ECOMOG, name it. We've been everywhere supporting Africa. So we need to be in to be able to drive the change from inside.
Now you're talking about the need to be in. Nigeria delayed in signing, saying it was reviewing its own side of things.
Very important decision. Yes, it was very important. No, it was very important because we've been beaten twice. And you have to be shy when you get beaten twice. We support about 65% of ECOWAS funding. What do you get? You get Ghanaians kicking us out of Ghana. We've supported South Africa. What do you get? They are massacring our people. You have Angola, they are killing our people. So there are things. And then you have successful businesses like Dangote that is experiencing serious trouble, 15 tariff lines in Togo, 17 and 19 in Ghana. So they got all that, and by the time his goods leave Nigeria and get to Ghana, the rate has gone up by about 39%. So we have real issues, and it was important for us to drill down on those issues and understand with our eyes open.
Is dumping one of those issues?
Dumping and smuggling are two critical ones because we cannot allow our economy to be recipients of dumping. The dumping is you are dumping substandard goods. One, you are also dumping goods that economies outside are subsidizing to enter Nigerian market. So it is not fair. So on those two counts, we have to be sure. And we have to be sure. And then there's also the second area, which is smuggling of things, denying us the customs revenue. So the reasons are important that we needed to explore and drill down on what the consequences would be for the manufacturers, for example. We have to protect our industries, but that notwithstanding, the case for being in there to influence the change is overwhelming.
Talking about challenges, for Nigeria to fully benefit from this agreement, what does Nigeria have to do?
There's nobody that stands to benefit the most from this than Nigeria. When we are the biggest economy, we are the biggest population. Our banks are in virtually most countries in Africa. We have multinationals from Nigeria. One of them is Dangote. You have oil and gas barons that are all over. So we have businesses that are going to benefit the most. But we want to see this thing work. These arrangements have not worked in many areas. But you know, look at the monetary union. We're having problems with monetary union simply because we don't know the value of francophone currency, and France holds 75% of their reserves. And so you're not dealing with known quantities here. Nigerian money, you can say the value of the naira, but you can't say that for the other. So there are issues, you know, serious issues. That opportunity was for us to look there and see it clearly and move into it with our eyes wide open. Very important.
Okay, still talking challenges. You know, what steps do you think should be taken around, earlier we're talking about smuggling, around the borders, as well as the real sector of the Nigerian economy?
Now, the real sector, one of the reasons why we benefited from that interlude was because we needed to know what specific actions have to be taken to increase our preparedness and investment readiness and our export competitiveness, all of that. So we know now that we need to come up with a strategy on how we're going to benefit. Call it the Nigerian AFCT strategy. We need to know what is our strategic response. How are we going to prepare our businesses to benefit the most from this? What kind of policy environment do we have to promote to enable our Nigerian businesses to make the most out of this entry? So those are very pertinent questions, and they are being addressed in the meetings.
Talking about pertinent questions, let's talk about skills.
Yeah.
The gap in skills, does that not place Nigeria at a
It's
disadvantage?
a serious disadvantage, actually, because if you want to plaster your house now, where do you go? You call them from Togo or somewhere. If you want to paint, where do you get them? You cooks and your people, the steward in your house, most of our big men, many of them are actually from Benin, Republic of Benin. So there are skills challenges. And we have over 130 universities, but yet we are spending more money for our people who are in Ghana, studying in Ghana, and many of them go abroad. So there are serious skills challenge in terms of quantitative and qualitative in education, that the skills we must match the skills. There's a mismatch between the skills profile that come out of our education system and what the industry needs. Mismatch, they don't match.
Now, in closing and in summary, what would your overview be on the way forward?
The way forward is to now get together. For example, when we are revising the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, it would be nice to have one section of it that looks at regional integration issues, so that we begin to say what we need to do to capitalize on opportunities on AFCT as well as ECOWAS. So we need to have that section in the thing. It's very strong to allay the fears, and then see what financial leverages and things that we need to do to support our businesses going into that area. But it's a huge opportunity. And we have even service industries like Nollywood and all that. There's lots of them.
Okay. Professor Kenny Fair, thank you for joining us on Business Express.
My pleasure.
Moving forward, the 18th Nigeria Oil and Gas Conference is underway in Abuja, with delegates profiling solutions to engage the government in more critical issues to close the gap of emerging challenges in the industry. Mia Ogidi has details.
Viewing the marginal fields from the skies within the Nigerian space reminds one of the endowments. 37.5 billion barrels of crude oil in reserve, let alone the 201 billion cubic feet of gas reserve. 2.3 million barrels of oil is said to be produced on a daily basis, expected to contribute 3.73 trillion naira, representing 42% to the Nigerian national budget in the year 2019. Men and women of like minds here are preoccupied with how these resources can be best explored to move the financial chart upwards and to move away from fossil fuels to renewable energy.
It's easy for us to go and copy and paste what other countries have done. But when you copy and paste, it may not work in your own environment. It hasn't worked for us. So we need to start thinking about different ways of doing the same thing so that we can actually achieve different results.
The 18th edition of the Oil and Gas Conference is a mere rhetoric, as it were, But to foreign partners of Nigeria, it is a moment of new targets that requires no one to sit on the fence.
How can President Buhari fulfill his promise of bringing 100 million people out of poverty without the oil and gas industry?
This is an invitation to all, but realizing this needs some efforts from the government.
One is standardizing regulatory reform so there's predictability. Secondly, of course, ensuring sanctity of contracts. Thirdly, the certainties around the tax regime. And fourthly, a dependable, independent judiciary.
NNPC is collaborating closely with the Department of Petroleum Resources to see that the right fiscal systems are in place.
A common ground found, but these delegates will be here for 3 days to reconcile the contributions of the private sector and that of the government for a shared prosperity in the Nigeria's oil and gas industry. Mie Ogidi.
With me is Olabode Showemi to talk on issues around the oil and gas industry in Nigeria and the way forward. Olabode Showemi is an energy expert. Welcome to Business Express.
Thank you.
Now, the world is gradually moving away from fossil fuel to renewable energy, with a country like Nigeria depending on crude. There's going to be a shift in revenue. So in the long and short term, what would your take be on balancing finance?
Well, first and fundamentally, there is a myth around the concept that the world is moving away from fossil fuel. It's not necessarily so. If you look at France, if you look at the US, if you look at all those major countries, Germany, Korea, Japan, you will see that 80 to sometimes as much as 90% of their energy sources is still not renewable. That's one part of it. The second part of it is that it is actually more expensive to use renewable energy on a on a large scale, on a mega scale, which is what we're looking at. So first and fundamentally, we as Nigerians don't need to worry about global or energy politics. We need to just meet our energy needs. In other words, if it's coal that will give us energy, then coal be it. If it is nuclear option, then we need to use nuclear options. When we are now satisfied with the energy options, with the energy demand, then we can now look at the more sexy options like renewable and all of that. That will be the way to go in terms of realistic things for the nation.
Now, still talking energy, power supply, sanctity of contracts, and infrastructure are some of the issues delegates are talking on the conference. What are your views on some of these issues?
Well, the power sector is a different kind of animal. in simple terms, the issues that are in the power sector are a myriad, and it is not any one. It's not just generation, it's not just transmission, it's not just distribution. Unfortunately, everybody just sees the distribution aspect, and the old hammer is there, and they should be hammered because they are the revenue aspect of it. But if you remove the distribution aspect, the discourse, the problem in the power sector will not disappear. There are a lot of fundamental issues that have not been looked at, and I'll give you just one. The generating companies sell their power to Embed, which is like an interface to guarantee that they will get their money back. It is Embed that now sells the power to the distribution company, which is Discos. Embed sells power at 306 naira for the aspect of it that are dollar denominated to the Discos. But the Discos sell it to us at 196. So the issue is that who is responsible for the gap? Everybody just looks at it, imagines that that is not there. So we are more or less keeping our head in the sand. I mean, that's just one. That can go on and on. But the point I'm trying to make is that there is a value chain issue across all the sectors of the value chain in the power sector.
Okay, let's move to gas reserve. Nigeria has a lot of it, yet we are undersupplied.
Well, it's simple. It's like you have a lot of ocean water, but not everybody has drinking water. Because
why is that?
Yes, because just like the ocean water needs to be processed before it's drinkable, you need to desalinate it, you need to purify it and all of that before it's drinkable. Gas needs to go through a processing before it is made available for domestic use. So whether it is LPG, whether it is LNG and all of those things, it goes through a processing. It is that processing that puts the value to the gas. It is that processing that we don't have sufficient capacity to make available for local demand. Even the amount that we have available locally is because of a government policy called the DSO, Domestic Supply Obligation. Were it not that they were the domestic supply obligation, the IOCs will prefer to take all their gas on to the outside.
So to fully tap into the potential of this gas,
yes, please.
In a short sentence, what would it be?
The government needs to implement its own gas master plan, as been proposed by the NNPC. It was initiated a couple of years ago. It was ceased, but now they need to relook at it, refine it, and the new management within NNPC should push it as a matter of urgent public attention. So we will be looking at infrastructure, we'll be looking at gas-based industries, we'll be looking at gas to power. Those are the things that are fundamental to the growth of the industry and that can even get the government very high political mileage.
So you're talking that legislation, we need more legislation in the oil and gas sector then?
Well, for legislation, we just need one. We need them to pass the PIGB, the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill. But for policy in terms of execution, that's where the gas master plan comes in, which is like the methodology for executing the things that they need to do. And if that is done well, simply put, it will be like a Swiss time place. It will not miss a beat.
It will be on point if we do that.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Olabode Showemi, an energy expert, for joining us on Business Express today. It was a pleasure having you.
Same here. Thank you.
Secretary General of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, Dr. Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo, has been re-elected for another 3-year term. This is a fallout of the 176th ordinary meeting of the organization. The joint ministerial conference also extended oil production cuts for 9 months.
An accomplished oil technocrat and veteran of OPEC, Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo's wealth of experience in the oil and gas industry distinguished his first tenure in office. The renewal for a second term did not come as a surprise to many who believe there is none more equipped for the job of OPEC Secretary General at the moment than the man Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo.
Whatever it is that you do, you always do it with a great deal of passion and excellence and great communicator. So we're fortunate to have had you for the last 3 years. I think the stature and contribution of OPEC has been greatly enhanced.
No doubt the task ahead is daunting, with major challenges as well as mounting uncertainties related to ongoing trade negotiations, monetary policies, and development as well as geopolitical issues. The JMMC is resolved to vigilantly monitor the timely implementation of the extension for the production adjustment. The 176th OPEC conference analyzed oil market development since it last met in Vienna in December 2018 and revealed the oil market outlook for the rest of 2019 into 2020. This is to nib in the bud potential consequences of this development on global oil market.
The commitment to a 9-month extension is unequivocal. It's very solid, very, very strong.
With this decision, member countries confirm their continued focus on fundamentals and commitment to a stable and balanced oil market in the interest of producers, consumers, and the health of the global economy.
The Nigerian equities market has recorded another decline as trade ended the session 3rd July on a negative note. The O-share index depreciated by 0.07% to close at 29,375.25 basis points, with market capitalization 12.9 trillion naira. 237 million equities exchange hands in 4,113 deals, valued at 1.9 billion naira. Unilever topped the gainer, stable, followed by WAPCO and Cement Company of Northern Nigeria. The decliners led by Mobil, while Morrison was the most sought after. Let's have details of how stocks are faring on the global market.
Stocks on the global scene for 3rd July saw European market traded higher after European leaders agreed on nominees to lead its main institutions for the next 5 years, following a marathon summit. DAX, FTSE 100 and CAC 40 were positive. Stocks in Asia markets declined as global trade concerns weighed on investor sentiment. Nikkei slipped 0.53% to close at 21,638.16. Shanghai Composite was lower by 0.94% to close at 3,015.26, and the Hang Seng Index slipped more than 0.7% as of its final hour of trading. U.S. stocks were slightly higher as investors await a fresh batch of economic data amid concerns about global economic growth. Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.26%, indicating a positive open. Futures on the S&P and Nasdaq were both seen slightly higher. African stocks opened mixed. Nairobi's all-share, Namibia Overall Index and South Africa's JSE Top 40 were positive, while Ghana's GSE and Tunisia's Tunidex were negative.
Global Market Report wraps up Business Express for today. Remember, you can access all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is NTA News Now. Don't forget the hashtag BizExp. We value your feedback, so keep the mails coming. Join us again on Friday. I am Amina Nujaim. Thank you for watching.